Is Toyota's new Land Cruiser a better choice of an SUV than the 4Runner and the Lexus GX? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner, where we help you, the consumer, master the process of car buying and car ownership. At long last, Toyota has finally introduced a brand new Land Cruiser that's going to be available here in North America. The Land Cruiser is a legendary SUV known for its amazing durability, reliability, and off-road capability. But is this all-new version really going to live up to the expectations of the Land Cruiser name? And maybe more importantly, is it a better alternative than the very similar Toyota 4Runner or the Lexus GX? Well, before we get into it, remember, if you enjoy and get value out of this video, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. So let's start off by talking about the all-new Land Cruiser. Now, the previous generation Land Cruiser, which was known as the 200 series, was replaced in 2021 with a brand new 300 series that is available in other markets. This all-new Land Cruiser, however, which is destined for North America, is a completely different animal. This one is known as the 250 series, and it is a smaller SUV than the Land Cruiser that's sold in other markets. But dimensionally, it's actually very close to the previous generation Land Cruiser, and it also shares the same mechanics and platform as the new Lexus GX. Now, some might argue that it's not really a proper Land Cruiser and more of a replacement for the Prado that was sold in other markets, but really that's not that bad of a thing. The fact that this new Land Cruiser has something of a back-to-basics approach, being a little bit more smaller and a lot less expensive than the old Land Cruiser, is actually kind of a good thing. It's not only more affordable to buy, but because it's now a mid-sized 5-seater SUV, that's why it's now more comparable to the 4Runner and the Lexus GX. And styling-wise, it's actually a pretty eye-catching SUV. For example, the base model, which is called the 1958 edition, comes with round LED headlights, which is designed to give it a more old-school retro look. Which is why you get a more basic interior with manual cloth seats, a manual tailgate, a smaller 8-inch touchscreen, and only a 6-speaker sound system. Of course, if you want a more luxurious and feature-packed Land Cruiser, you could go with one of the higher trims. The standard version gives you a different look with rectangle-shaped headlights, and more available features including a standard soft text interior or optional leather. You can also get a larger infotainment system, a JBL sound system, and a lot more off-road equipment as well. I can't decide whether it looks better with the round or the rectangle headlights, but either way, it's kinda neat that Toyota gives you the choice between two different looks. Now, as mentioned, this new Land Cruiser is going to be built on the same truck platform that's used for a number of different Toyota and Lexus models, including the new Toyota Tacoma, the Sequoia, and also the Lexus GX. Not only is this going to make it a very capable off-road SUV, but another major benefit is that it's going to be manufactured in Japan, in the same Tahara assembly plant where the 4Runner and the GX are made. This is a major bonus when it comes to durability and build quality because the Tahara plant is known for making some of the best built vehicles in the world, including the GX and the 4Runner. So far so good, but unfortunately there are a few things about the Land Cruiser that make it somewhat controversial, starting with the drivetrain underneath the hood. Many were expecting the new Land Cruiser to use a V6 engine, but unfortunately that's not the case. Instead, Toyota decided to go with their iForce Max 4-cylinder hybrid system, the same one that's used in the new Toyota Tacoma. Now, for some, this might be seen as a bit of a disappointment because for a Land Cruiser, a 4-cylinder engine just seems a little bit inadequate. But even though it only has 4 cylinders, it does make some impressive numbers. Because you have a hybrid system which uses both a 2.4-liter turbocharged engine along with an electric motor and a hybrid battery pack, it produces 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque, which is impressive. And combined with an 8-speed automatic transmission and a full-time all-wheel drive system, you also have a towing capacity of up to 6,000 pounds. Now, even though fuel economy numbers were not available at the time of this recording, I'm estimating that it's going to be able to achieve somewhere between 20 and 25 miles per gallon, or around 10 to 12 liters per 100 kilometers. So in terms of the numbers, this is a really impressive drivetrain, but of course there are some major benefits going with the GX and the 4Runner. In the case of the Lexus GX, we have a twin-turbo 3.4-liter V6 engine, making 349 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. There's also a 10-speed automatic transmission and a full-time 4-wheel drive system. Not only is this a beefier, more powerful drivetrain, the same one that's used in the Tundra, the 300 series Land Cruiser, and even the Lexus LX, but it also gives you a much better towing capacity up to 8,000 pounds. It would have been really nice to see Toyota offer this engine as an option on the Land Cruiser, but because they don't, if you really want to have that V6 power, well, then you're going to have to go with the GX. And as for the 4Runner, well, that one is a completely different story. Of course, the 4Runner is a really old school SUV, and it has an equally old drivetrain underneath the hood. The engine is a naturally aspirated 4-liter V6 engine, producing 270 horsepower and 278 pound-feet of torque. It also comes matched to a 5-speed automatic transmission in either part-time or full-time 4-wheel drive. This is an ancient drivetrain that can trace its roots back almost 2 decades. And even though it's nowhere near a match for the new Land Cruiser or the GX when it comes to power, performance, or fuel economy, it does have its own unique benefits that make it even more appealing in some ways. Because it's such a simple and well-proven drivetrain, there is no question it's going to have the best reliability and longevity of the trio. It's time-tested, well-proven, easy to repair, and easy to work on, all of which make it a really attractive choice. So for those who just want a more back-to-basics, old-school SUV that's built to last forever, well, the 4Runner is still going to be the superior choice. Now you might be thinking that the Land Cruiser or the GX are better off-road SUVs, but that's not necessarily the case either. Even though the new Land Cruiser and the Lexus GX are dimensionally smaller than full-sized SUVs, like the Toyota Sequoia and the 300 series Land Cruiser, they are both still a little bit bigger than the 4Runner, a few inches longer and wider. And because the 4Runner is a little bit smaller, that helps give it better approach, departure, and breakover angles when off-roading. And I was also surprised to learn that the 4Runner actually has better ground clearance than the Land Cruiser, 9.6 inches versus only 8.7 inches, which is surprising. But even so, at the end of the day, all three of these are going to be extremely capable off-road SUVs. In the case of the Land Cruiser and the GX, we have a full-time 4-wheel drive system with a 2-speed transfer case and a high and low range. You also have lockable center and rear differentials, available multi-terrain select and a crawl control system, and available skid plates, rock rails, and 33-inch tires. The 4Runner, on the other hand, offers many of these features as well, at least if you go with the TRD Off-Road or the TRD Pro versions. I think at the end of the day, all three of these are going to be amazingly capable off-road SUVs. But if you're looking for something that's going to be more comfortable to use on a daily basis, there's no question the Land Cruiser or the GX are going to be much better for it. They're also going to have more comfortable and more feature-packed interiors. Now, interestingly, the Land Cruiser is only going to be available as a 5-seater in North America, whereas both the 4Runner and the GX are available as either a 5-seater or an optional 7-seater. That being said, at the end of the day, all three of these are very spacious SUVs, and very similar when it comes to passenger and cargo space. Of course though, the benefit that you get with the Land Cruiser and the GX is just more up-to-date technology. The 4Runner has a pretty basic interior, especially when compared to the two others. Toyota has done a decent job keeping it up to date with the latest features to make it a more usable SUV, but it's obviously nowhere near the same level as the Land Cruiser or the GX. Both come with much better connectivity features, better and larger infotainment systems, and in the case of the GX, you obviously have a much more luxurious interior. Another huge benefit that you get with the Land Cruiser and the GX is a much better safety rating. Although they haven't officially been crash tested yet, they are most likely going to have much better crash test scores than the 4Runner, which is pretty mediocre in that area. They also come with much better active safety technology as part of either Lexus or Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. So if having the safest SUV is important to you, then going with the GX or the Land Cruiser is the safer choice. Now when it comes to pricing, this might ultimately be the deciding factor for a lot of buyers. Now we don't know the official pricing for the Land Cruiser or the GX at the time of this recording, but we can come with a safe estimate of where they're going to be. The 4Runner is priced from between $42,000 to $56,000 US, or roughly $55,000 to $70,000 Canadian. Now the Land Cruiser should be around $10,000 to $15,000 more expensive than the 4Runner, which would put it in the range of around $55,000 to $65,000 US, or around $65,000 to $75,000 Canadian. And the GX should be roughly another $10,000 to $15,000 on top of that, making it roughly $70,000 to $80,000 US, or around $80,000 to $90,000 Canadian. So when it comes to pricing, the 4Runner is still going to have the advantage in that area, but the Land Cruiser is going to strike a nice balance between the two. You get all the same amazing off-road capability, similar interior space, and also similar features as the GX, all for a much lower price. And with that impressive iForce Max drivetrain, you do have a really good combination between giving you really strong performance with decent fuel economy. As an everyday mid-sized SUV that's going to be practical, spacious, and still give you plenty of comfort, this is a really nice choice. But ultimately, because it doesn't have a V6 engine, it's not going to give you the same performance as the GX. And obviously, it's not going to be anywhere near as luxurious either. But hey, if you don't like the complexity and the modern technology that you get with the Land Cruiser, and you just want to have something that's more basic and old school, well, that's what the 4Runner is for. Its simple, no-nonsense, old-school approach is exactly what makes it such a durable, long-lasting SUV. One that you can comfortably hold on to for pretty much forever. It's not very good when it comes to fuel economy. In fact, it's pretty terrible in that area. It's not going to be as comfortable to drive, and it's lacking when it comes to features and safety when compared to the other two. But the fact that Toyota still gives you that choice, whether to go with a more simple, old-school SUV like the 4Runner, or a more up-to-date and modern SUV like the Land Cruiser, well, that's pretty interesting. In fact, if I were in charge at Toyota, I would just leave the 4Runner alone. Leave the Land Cruiser to the crowd that wants the more modern, up-to-date SUV with the latest technology. Now obviously, that's not going to happen. Eventually, Toyota is going to replace the 4Runner, likely with a smaller, simpler, and less expensive alternative than the Land Cruiser. We'll have to wait and see how they do, but in the meantime, let me know which of these three SUVs you would go for. Just let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. You can also take a look at my other videos by clicking these links over here. Make sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram. And if you need additional car buying advice, recommendations, or help with getting a great deal on your next new car purchase, make sure to visit carhelpcan.com. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.